Good evening, everyone, and welcome again. We're starting the chapter 41 in the book on page 602. I believe that's where we finished. So I have to do a lot of reading today of the Rebbe's teaching. Just some of what we studied and some of what we're going to touch upon. We discussed the idea of the two emotions of respect or fear of God and love of God. They both must be there in order for me to serve God. As the Rebbe said, I will not do anything for somebody unless I have an emotional attachment, either great respect for a person or great love. Of course, if someone asks me to pick up something or is from the floor, or asks me what time is it, or he asks me what time the bus will arrive, I'll be very happy to assist. It's a mitzvah. But to go out of my way, to take someone, give him a ride to the airport, to take someone, lend them my lawnmower, or come and help him paint his house, I would do it either because I love him very dearly, or because I have too much respect and I honor him so much that I feel it's a great honor to assist. In serving God, true service of God must be motivated. The engine of the service of God stem from love or respect. I use the word fear. In Hebrew, fear is not translated as fear to English, but it's respect, awe. So the rabbi in chapter 41 teaches us that fear or respect for God must be there first. It is not just the motivator for the negative precepts, for the misbehaving that God said stay away, but also for the positive. When God said celebrate Shabbat, and God said tell the truth, and God said pray, and God says study Torah, it must be based with the foundation of respect for God. And I was thinking for an idea, and I read it somewhere, that as we'll discuss many times, that a bird needs to have two wings. One is not enough. But the idea the rabbi is speaking about is that respect must come first, is driving a car. There are two absolute necessities for a car. It doesn't matter even an electrical or fuel charged car. You must have a accelerator pedal and you must have a brake, right? What if you're missing one of them? You're in trouble. Which one is worse? Which one is more crucial? Which one? The brake. Because if the brake is not functioning, you will not get to your destination. You will bump into a wall or find yourself in a ditch. If your fuel, just a minute, if your fuel is not operating, bless you, you stay in the same spot, but you are not endangering yourself. Ali, what did you have to say?
You need two things. You need the brakes and you need a horn. You can go downhill at least with brakes and a horn.
I'm talking about pedals. So the fuel pedal, the gas, is love. Out of love, you want to rush into serving God. You want to do whatever God says. But you also need to have the brakes. You need to have respect for God so that you do it the way God wants you to do it. For someone who is, for example, married, and he's going to sit and study Torah instead of going home to be with his wife or assist with the children, they are not serving God. If I am in love with my spouse, and out of love I always shower her with hugs and kisses, not letting her breathe, I did not express, I did not please, I did not do what's right. The idea of respect is the basis, the foundation on which you build your relationship. Same is about God, or it's God, because it's so with God. The same is with every relationship, employer-employee, parents and children, siblings, husband and wife, children and their parents, etc. So in a car, a gas pedal won't get you nowhere without. But the brakes pedal, if it's broken, it's not functioning, you're in a very dangerous situation. That's when you never want to go into car. That's why the brakes should always be checked. And the reason is, without the brakes, you won't be having control to where you're going to get. You won't be able to stop or turn at the right turns. When it's comes to serving God, we get into a vehicle to connect us to God. There must be the respect for God as the first thing. That's the first point, and I think we already discussed that last time. Correct, Ali? The next point the Rabbi is making is that that's the reason we're going to study it tonight, that for men, we start the day with what? Talit and tefillin. What's the idea of tefillin? Let's talk about tefillin before talit. Because a boy, before they get married, they wear only tefillin, no talis. Talis is only for married men. Tefillin has 4 boxes. They have 4 parchments from the Torah. What are they all about? The Rabbi is going to talk about in details. I would like to just hover over it. The idea is to accept God's yoke, to accept the fact that God runs the show and He's watching closely how I conduct myself. I shared with you that this is a mitzvah incumbent or obligated by men only, not by women, because by them, they are naturally connected with God on that level. It is men who tend to go astray that need that reminder. So you have tefillin in the Kabbalistic terminology. Those of us who have been to Kabbalah many lessons, we call it memale, filling in. That's why it has to be on the arm and the head, the arm representing the heart, the head representing the brains. The talis is called soivev. Soivev is surrounding all around. That's why the Chabad talis does not have a headpiece. I don't know if you have seen many talises, they would have a blessing on the top part. Real Hasidic Jews would have silver ornaments. Anybody seen those silver? If you look at my talis, the Chabad talis, it's flat, it's the same. The only way to know, the only way to know the top from the bottom is with an extra piece of garment. Because if you use it for the head, this part, you shouldn't use it for the bottom, out of respect for the talis. So how do we know the difference? Because we have an extra piece that is over the head. But there is no distinction between the top and the bottom.
What does Sovev mean and Mamal? What you just said?
Sovev and Memale. Just a minute. So talis, that's why it comes once we get married. Because at first it has to be Memale. Memale means filling in. We study it in Tanya. You heard it a million times. Memale means fitting in one, every world, every part of the body according to the need and according to the capacity. Sovev is all-encompassing. And that's what tefillin and talis is. Tefillin is particularly to the arm and the head. Talis is all around the body. And the reason is because it's all-encompassing. Both are about bringing respect and awe to God. That's why we start with it early in the morning, the first thing we do. Even though we pray in the afternoon and we pray in the evening, you don't see us putting on tefillin at mincha or evening service. You do it only in the morning because that's when you start the day, and the prayer is about making you concentrate.
What's the
and focus.
difference with putting the talis covers your head, talis always?
Because you want it to be all encompassing all over your body. You need to cover the head. After you've covered it a little bit, about 15 seconds, then you can take it off and put it on your shoulders. But the idea is that the talis should cover the entire body, just like Sabav, which is a light that is all-encompassing. The next point that the rabbi is going to make, which is a chidush, which is something the rabbi is pressing and is a big believer in, which is you can create emotion. I can fall in love with a person. You cannot say, I don't love him, that's it. There's nothing I can do. Unless there is something repelling, normally I can fall in love with a person even if I have not fallen in love at the first sight. How do you do that? The rabbi calls it hitbonenut. That's the chidush of the Rebbe. The Rebbe says that there is no shortcut. If you concentrate and meditate for a while, you will be able to reach a deep love to God and great respect for God. The same it will work with human beings. If I don't love my parents, assuming they did not abuse me, abuse is already out of the ordinary. I'm talking about in the ordinary way. A spouse, if any time somebody tells me they fall out of love, anybody heard the idea of falling out of love? I do not believe in fall out of love. I laugh when people say that. And out of respect, I keep my mouth shut. But it's totally opposite of what Kabbalah tells us. Kabbalah tells us that it's my choice. Some people might be lazy. They are not willing to invest. But the way I was raised and the way I live my life, marriage is something, a relationship must be continuously invested in. And if you are investing, you will not fall out of love. Anytime somebody says, I fell out of love after 7 years, after 7 months, after 15 years, we tell them, the first question is, how hard did you try? How much did you put in? No, I'm not criticizing anybody here because there are two to tango and you don't know what the other side, and sometimes it's really, there is abuse, there is real mismatching, there is no doubt. In fact, Hillel, the famous Rabbi Hillel says that anytime a man finds a more beautiful, better looking girl, he can divorce his wife. That's a dispute. There are 4 opinions. What are grounds for divorcing a wife? One of them, Hillel, says that there is nothing wrong, but he found someone more attractive. But as the Hasidus teaches us, that itself is a sign that he did not invest with the spouse, because if he would invest and put the effort, there will be nobody else as good and as attractive as the spouse. But that's not our topic tonight. So back to our discussion. This is the next point the rabbi is making, is that, as I shared with you last week, Code of Law enumerates all the mitzvot that involve action. How to shake the lulav, how to celebrate Shabbat, how to pray on a holiday, how to deal in business. But there is no law, the laws regarding emotions, love God, love your spouse. It's a mitzvah. You won't find in Code of Law how to love God, how to fear God, respect God. This is the way the Rebbe is addressing, and that is to let us know respect for God must must come before as the foundation of every mitzvah, no matter which mitzvah. In addition, if someone says, I don't have any fear of God, I don't have any love of God, the Rebbe is saying, you should know that there is something that you can achieve with meditation, deep meditation. And as I said, I think 2 weeks ago, there are 2 types of emotions. There is doing it with kavana, the intention to love God, or the proper way, which is doing it out of love, really evoking and creating love in the heart. But even if there is no love in my heart, as long as in my mind I meditate and try, that's called kavana. That's what my intention is. And then when I serve God, I serve it with the right purpose. And the last point I want to show that I was going to talk about tonight is that when God gave us the commandments, every time we perform a commandment, we say, Baruch atah, thank you, God, blessed are you, God, our Lord, King of the universe. And then we say the word Asher, that, Kideshanu, sanctified us, b'mitzvotav, with his commandments. Vetzivanu, and he commanded us, להדליק נר של שבת קודש, to light the Shabbat candles, to light the Hanukkah candles, to say the Hallel, to celebrate Shabbat, to say the Havdalah. But everything begins with Asher Kideshanu, that he sanctified us with our mitzvot. What that means, as the Rabbi is going to tell us, is when I meditate and I have real respect for God, I become a conduit for God. And therefore, God sanctifies me. I become a holy vessel that contains God. So when I celebrate Shabbat, or when I give tzedakah, or when I eat a Shabbat meal, or I invite guests to my house, it's God doing it. He is acting in my body and action, but I become connected to God to a much deeper level. And for that, I have a story. It's not a story, it's a parable. A man who was getting married, and unfortunately got drafted to the army, but he wanted to be married. So he asked his friend to act as his agent and to marry the girl on his behalf. So Reuben had a friend, Shimon Pinieh, and Shimon was asked to marry the girl for Reuben. He got the ring. Reuben was in the front. We don't know what the girl obviously wanted to marry Reuben. And Shimon goes, the chuppah is standing, the rabbi is there, the photographer is there, the videographer, the girls, the boys. And then the rabbi says, where's the groom? And Shimon runs into the chuppah and says, I'm his agent. He takes out the ring, he places on the finger of the bride and says, Harei at mekudeshet leReuven betabat. You are betrothed to Reuven with this ring, kedat Moshe v'Israel, as in accordance with the teaching of Moshe and Israel. Who do you think is she? Is she married or not? And to whom? Anyone?
He's not there,
He's not there.
so he cannot pledge for her.
So Shimon cannot,
I mean, the groom is not there, so how can he marry her?
but
Long
he
distance?
appointed Shimon. He appointed Shimon to do the act on his behalf.
Can you do that?
I'm asking you.
No,
No,
no. And then she kisses the other groom?
no kissing. Remember, under the chuppah, no
I forgot
kissing.
that the chuppah you don't kiss.
Not allowed to kiss. Ali, what do you think? Really? The halacha is, the law is that she is married to Reuben, to the first one. Why?
He's an agent.
Because Shimon is an agent. And therefore, an agent can act on behalf of somebody else.
Even
Halak.
So if they did it Zoom, it has no value. Because somebody has to place the ring on her finger and she has to accept that. But if someone else did it, and he says clearly, I'm doing it on behalf of Reuven, of my body, she's married to that guy. Ali, you got it?
Yeah, okay.
You don't like the idea?
I think it's a great idea.
Why not? I want you to know, I just want you to know, this is not,
Oh, no, if it's allowed, I'm sure. it
this
happens
is
a lot.
not something that never happened.
I'm sure it happens a lot.
In today's reality in Israel, for example, you know, there are many soldiers who are taken from the chuppah. They got permission for 12 hours to go home to get married because they were engaged and suddenly their work broke. So they didn't. They couldn't afford. You can't afford to postpone a wedding. Also, it's a great mitzvah. You don't want to postpone it. So they allowed them to go home for 12 hours to get married. And in the morning, 7 a.m., they had to be back in the base to fight. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Now, in the last 3 years, it happened a few times, more than once. Unfortunately, there was a case, we went back and never came. Yeah, very sad. But it happens all the time. So what if he couldn't make it? So he's appointing his brother to act as an agent. He's appointing a friend to act. It doesn't look good in the photos, but they can Photoshop later.
Can it be the other way around too?
What's the
That
other way?
the bride is in the military and somebody stands for her under the chuppah with a groom?
It's a good
Or
question.
or it's only one way?
Why not?
No, but
Yeah, no, I would say yes. I don't know the answer.
that's why I'm asking Rabbi.
I don't think so. And the reason is because she has to accept it and say yes.
Now,
The husband, she has to accept the ring and say yes.
So the man is not.
And I
accepting.
don't think that somebody else can do it on our behalf. I don't think so.
men don't wear a ring,
No,
correct?
no.
What is the reason, Rabbi?
You want to get married?
I don't have a ring, Herman has a ring.
Why you don't have a ring?
My ring is broken.
You should get a new one. Herman. This is the idea of me having respect and fear of God and love for God. Then when I say the blessing before I perform a mitzvah, I allow for God to use me as a conduit. And when God performs the mitzvah, it's done in the most perfect way. Let's do some reading. Where are we? Anybody remember where we finished?
I wasn't here.
I'm going to start reading from page, I think we read it, but we'll read it again. Page number 600. The realization that God bestows his kingship upon each individual in particular touches a responsive chord within one. He is then more apt to demand of himself that he accept the heavenly yoke. In other words, no matter how great God, and that he runs all the galaxies and all the universes in the Milky Way, including our universe and our country and our state and our city and our neighborhood and our street and our home, and within the home, me, he did everything. At the same time, he watches me in particular to watch every move of my life. And he, for his part, accept his kingship, the human, upon himself, that he be king over him, to serve him and do his will in all kinds of servile work. This acceptance of the yoke of divine service is required of all Jews. The Rebbe, what? The Rebbe points out that the Alter Rebbe will now go on to say that the above meditation aimed at awakening innate awe in one's mind does not suffice. An individual must also realize that God not only bestows his kingship upon him in a general manner, but he also does so in a, so to speak, personal manner. And in the Alter Rebbe's words, here is the verse, and behold, God himself stands over him, and the whole world is full only with his glory. And not only being omnipresent does he see everything, but moreover, he scrutinizes him in particular and searches his reins and heart, that is, his innermost thoughts and emotions to see if he is serving him as is fitting. So therefore, God is watching every move of my day. So what happens if I'm facing a great challenge? Something enormous may befall, God forbid, that's very, very painful. I say to myself, God is watching. God is with me. I'm sure it's for the right reason. It brings peace. Now, I'm not here to justify when someone goes through a trial and tribulation, someone is about to be tested for an ailment, someone is about to lose a spouse, someone, whatever it might be. Definitely, this is not the right attitude. But for me, as individual, I need to know God is with me all the time, and he is watching every move of my life, my innermost heart, and therefore he will not allow someone to harm me. He will not allow someone to take away something that belongs to me. He will not take away something that I deserve, and no one can fight God. The Rebbe, on many occasions, if you to search the verse I just read, in the Rebbe's letters, so far there are about 29 volumes came out, and they include just a small part of the Rebbe's letters, only the letters that are relevant, are important, and are not a repeat. In other words, if the Rebbe answered to one and answered the same to somebody else, they wouldn't print it. So they would print maybe 3 out of 3,000. It's not even 1%. And the Rebbe, on many occasions, people had suffered from anxiety. People were complaining about why is their fate in such a way. The Rebbe would say, learn the chapter 41, and particularly up to this point, and repeat it every time anxiety comes up. Every time you get upset, every time you get angry, every time you worry, say to yourself, the verse that God is watching over me, He left all of the universes, and He's watching every move of my life, and He's protecting me, because if I didn't count, I wouldn't be here as we have studied before. Therefore, the Rabbi continued, he must serve in His presence with awe and fear. That is, notes the Rebbe, not merely like one who is located in the king's domain, but moreover like one standing before the king. It's not that the king is in my town, but I'm here in front of the king, in the king's palace, in the room with the king. One must meditate profoundly and at length on this concept. Profoundly meaning in quality, and at length means quantity. One rabbi explains, you have got to meditate and find ways to meditate that speaks to you, and you must take the time to do it continuously. Hasidim will do it every day. On Shabbat, they would have time to meditate. I think I showed it to my father. Many times for 2-3 hours, he would sit and meditate. Then the rest of the prayer would go very fast. Because once he connected to God out of awe and love for God, then the prayer is much more exciting. And all of the prayer was just to connect to God, and the connections was achieved. During the week, people have to go to work. But there is no way a chassid will begin prayer without meditating for a little bit. I would say at least 1 minute. Just say to yourself, God is here watching me and protecting me and providing me, and will not allow anyone to take out something that don't belong to me, or give me something. And with that, I deserve to say thank you. With that meditation, you start the prayer. The prayer is totally different because you know God is watching you. In addition, the prayer is effective the whole day. During the day when you lose because the stock market went tumbling, God forbid, you don't go jumping off the window of the roof, because you know that's God's choice. And if the stock market went up, you're lucky because God wants you to smile. Simple as that. Yes.
Listen, you talk about meditation, you're talking about kosher meditation, not like transcendental.
Of course, and I'm talking about the meditation I'm speaking about here is that one achieve meditation by himself there is no need for a group setting or a guide. It's just to meditate. We have studied before. the way to the proper meditation that takes place. Just like when I pray, there is no one prayer for everybody. There's no one that prays for everyone. Everyone needs to pray by themselves. The meditation needs to come before the prayer.
Is there such a thing as kosher meditation?
There is such a thing as not kosher meditation, yes. Many of the Far East meditation, many of them are based on idols. They ask you to concentrate on an image or a god, which is idol worship. They are trying to convince people or make people worship idols, which is very, very abhorrent, and it's a grave sin. However, this is not the meditation we're talking about. We're talking about just to meditate is a word for concentrate on my relationship with God. Where is God and where I am? And that helps me pray, and that helps my day. I'm more calm. I'm not, no anxiety. Now, some people need medication. Some people, of course, some people are, the anxiety or the suffering or the pain is way too much for a human to handle. And for that, you have professional help, you have medication, and I'm a big advocate of it. We are dealing with situations that are in the average. An average, a person gets, rubbed in the wrong way, loses something, and that's when the meditation helps. Ali, are you with us? Huh?
That's why I brought my book this time, so I had.
Before he engages in the study of Torah or before the performance of a commandment, such as before putting on talis and tefillin, says Rabbi. And by the way, some people before they perform any mitzvah, they say, I do it for serving God. In other words, they verbalize their connection to God through the mitzvah. So my grandfather was not a Chabad. He would come to visit us every 2 weeks. He would travel by many buses to be with us, to study Torah. And he would take me, each one of the grandchildren, separately. And he would close the door in the dining room so no one should disturb. And he would open up say, where are you holding in Gemara, in the Talmud? And then he would test me, make me study with him. But before he would say, I am doing the following mitzvah to serve you, God, study of Torah. I cannot tell you how powerful it is. We say it in the morning. Before Baruch She'amar, we say, L'Shem Yichud Kudsha. Anybody who's familiar with the prayer, every day we do it once. Chabad Hasidim do it only once in the morning, and that should suffice for the whole day. Maybe we'll touch upon it. But other Hasidim, so before they shake lulav, they say, L'Shem Yichud Kudsha, for the sake of connecting to God and serving His command, I am about to do. So, and before they say Kiddush, Friday night. They say, I am doing it for the sake of serving God and fulfilling the commandment to say Kiddush. Every mitzvah before they do, they remind themselves, verbalizing that they are doing it for God's sake. Then the performance is in a whole different level. It's not something done by rote. Bless you. This meditation, another
enough.
huh?
Now enough.
No, that's for sure. This meditation will enable him to then serve God with awe. The Alter Rebbe now goes on to explain another form of meditation. Unlike the above thoughts, which should preface divine service in general, this meditation relates to the particular mitzvah that the individual is about to perform. To the content of this mitzvah, its distinctive effect and its influence on his soul. And the Rabbi is going to talk about talit and tefillin. But until now, the Rabbi spoke about if you want to connect to God and serve God, you need to say before, contemplate and meditate before, and that should awaken fear or awe and love. And in addition, before every mitzvah you do, you say to yourself, I'm doing it because God commanded me. and I'm doing it to serve God. That will make us perform the mitzvah much greater. Now the Rabbi is going to talk in particular for a mitzvah, as I shared the first mitzvah we do in the morning. It should also reflect how the light of the blessed Ein Sof, which encompasses all world and pervades all worlds, and which is identical with the higher will, which is called Soivev. Previous chapters have stated that God's will is the source of the life force that animates all worlds in both a transcendental and an indwelling mode. And says the Rebbe, is clothed in the letters and wisdom of the Torah. So when I study Torah, I connect to God on both levels. Sovev, transcendent, and indwelling, memale, filling in. In the very letters of Torah that the person utters, and in the Torah wisdom that he comprehends, God's will is to be found. As explained in chapter 4, the divine will clothes itself in the ink and parchment of the Torah scroll, and similarly clothes itself in the wisdom of Torah. Thus, when the wisdom of the Torah determines that a certain object is either kosher or invalid, it is expressed in the divine will. Accordingly, before a person commences his Torah study, he should ponder on how the Ein Sof light, the divine will, is vested in the letters and wisdom of the Torah he is now about to study. The Rebbe is saying, I'm not going to go, this can take an entire lesson. The Rebbe is saying that every time I study Torah, I connect to God on both levels, indwelling and overshadowing. What does he call it? Transcendental. Because the Torah has, on one, it's God's wisdom. And when I study Torah, I'm busy with God's wisdom. But also God's wisdom is encompassing my mind, because I cannot think of anything else. So I am covering the topic, and the topic covers me. So it's on both levels. If I think before I study Torah, I don't study Torah as an exercise of the mind. I study Torah because it's God's will. I should be busy with God's wisdom. And I fulfilled God's mitzvah by doing so. Then I connect to God on both levels. It's transcendental as indwelling. And the same says the Rebbe, or if his meditation takes place before he puts on talit and tefillin, he should contemplate how the divine will is clothed in these tzitzit and tefillin, it being God's will that a Jew wears them. So you have tefillin is memale, indwelling, it's for the arm and the head, and you have talis, all encompassing, entire body is covered by the talit. And through his recitation or study of the Torah, or by his wearing tzitzit and tefillin, he draws upon himself his blessed light that is over the part of God's above, his soul, which abides in his body and animates it. This he does with the intent that it may be absorbed and nullified in his blessed light. The goal is to be connected to God, and the ultimate connection is done when I study Torah for God's sake, or I put on tefillin and talit for God's sake. Then I connect to God on both levels, the internal and the external. The individual's intent then is that the aforementioned study and performance have an effect on his soul. In particular, as will soon be explained, the intellectual and emotional faculties of the soul are affected by tefillin. Says the Rebbe, specifically through tefillin, he should intend that the attribute of wisdom and understanding, which are in his divine soul, should be nullified and absorbed into the attributes of wisdom and understanding of the blessed Ein Sof. This being clothed, in particular, in the passage of Kadesh and V'aya ki yaviacha. I am just going to keep reading and then I explain. In these passages, both of which are found in the Tefillin, God's wisdom, Chokhmah, and understanding, Bina, are clothed, wisdom in the former and understanding in the latter. By putting on tefillin, the individual's wisdom and understanding are absorbed in God's. How does this find expression? That is to say, that he should use his wisdom and understanding that are in his soul for God alone, only in pursuit of Torah and Mitzvot and for understanding godliness. What the Rabbi is saying is, we're going to talk about the other two, I think. Yeah, here are the other two, and I'll explain all four in a moment. There are 4 boxes in the tefillin. Similarly, it should intend that the attribute of da'at, the third of the 3 components of the intellect, in his soul, which includes both chesed, kindness, and gevurah, severity, that is, fear and love in his heart. Says the Rebbe, the attribute of da'at, okay, before we go to that, tefillin has 4 boxes. Why 4 boxes? Each box, that's why there are 4 lines. Even the one for the arm that have no 4 lines does include 4 chapters, 4 texts, except they are in one scroll and they are rolled around. The one by the head are separate scrolls, 4 separate scrolls in 4 separate components. Why are there 4? According to Kabbalah, the first one, Shema, represent Chokhmah. I'm not going to connect Shema and Chokhmah now because I want to move on. This will take too long. Second is Bina. The second parchment, Vayayim Shamoah, is Bina. The third one, Kadesh Li Kol Bechor, is Da'at. Da'at is the third of the intellectual, but it comprises of Chesed and Gvura, kindness and severity. And the fourth one, I don't remember the fourth one right now, I think, is Malchut, the last one. In other words, the 4 components represent both the brains and the heart, attributes that are going to be dedicated and concentrating on serving God. That's the idea of tefillin. So talit has no parchments because talit is all encompassing. If it's all encompassing, it covers the head, the heart, the arms, the legs, the torso, everything all together the same. But tefillin is indwelling. It's in particular to certain body parts. It wants to affect the heart, it wants to affect the brains. And therefore God commanded us to have 4 parchments in each. And those 4 parchments are to accommodate for all faculties of the brains and all emotions of the heart, that all of them should be connected to serving God.
So the part.
Did I make myself clear?
The head has the exact same,
Yes.
it's not 4 of one and one of it. It's the same thing, exactly.
I'll repeat again.
One's divided into
The same parchment, the same chapters of Torah appears in the hand and the head. The only difference is by the one at the hand, they are all written into one long continuous scroll, and one the head, they are separate and they are placed in separate places. Ali, did you understand what we just shared? I started.
Why women don't have to put on tefillin?
So I just shared, according to Kabbalah, it makes sense. Only men go astray. Only men need to have
Yeah, I understand. I don't
you know what?
agree with
People can argue as much as they want, but that's the reality. It's the reality. In the desert, first it's the fact of life. The second is in the desert. Who disobeyed the king? It's this week's portion. Miriam and Yocheved, the women. Because of them, we have the Jewish people. Amram, the husband, what does he do? He divorces his wife. That's not right. It's easy for me to judge him, God forbid. He's one of the holy men who died no sin, with not a single sin. So I'm the last one who can talk. I have sinned every day. I've loaded loads of sins. So, but Amram said to his wife, "I don't want to be married to you anymore." That's how he reacted towards a decree. Pharaoh gives a decree to Miriam and Yocheved. What do? The Torah testify. They couldn't care less. They said, "We will do what's right." They are connected to God naturally. In the desert, who worship idols? Who worship the golden calf? Only men. Who would refuse to go to Israel with the spies? The men. Korach, men. It's only the men. The women, there was no trouble. If there would be no men, they say that Moshe, the reason the Jews, the Jewish people, ended up for 40 years in the desert is because Moshe was their leader.
Moshe what?
Moshe was the leader. And God appointed a woman, she would stop to ask for direction. So,
Yeah.
anyway, what, Herman?
No.
You don't like it still, or you
I
changed it?
understand that, like it, don't, I don't.
You don't
I
like
agree.
it.
I don't agree.
You don't agree. Okay, so we disagree. But
Agree to
we
disagree.
agree to disagree. By the way, when God gave the Torah, he asked Moshe to teach the women first. You know that?
Yeah,
Because for them it was easy to accept. It was easy for them to follow.
Did
This-
Miriam do it? She did something that was no good, right?
Miriam,
Yeah.
Maybe.
she meant well, but God was very angry because she shouldn't speak about Moshe. And by the way, I'm sure you heard from me that anyone who gets this affliction of tzaraat is because they're very, very close to God. You know that, right? I spoke about it many times. Not every ordinary, today we don't have that because we're far, far from God. Only people who are very close to God. If God is not happy, he makes a sign for them. That's why the Torah uses the word Adam, ki yeh be'or b'sarot, tzaraat. When the Torah begins the teaching of tzaraat, of the affliction of the discoloration, uses the term Adam, not Ish. The men, the word men for a human, there are 4 ways. Adam, Ish, Gever, Enosh. Ma Enosh ki tizkerenu. Adam is the highest level. That's why Adam, there is no plural. Ish, Anashim. Ish can be plural. Gever, Gvarim. Enosh, Anashim too. Adam, there is no Adamim. Adam is a single because it's the highest level. And
Combination of Adam and Eve too, right?
of course, right. The word Adam means 2 things, but we're going off topic. It's from Adama, from earth. Also, Adam means compared to God. Adame le'elyon is close or is a reflection of God. But Adam, the word Adam is the highest standard of a human. When the Torah talks about Tzarat, this affliction of discoloration, starts with the word Adam, ki yebes b'osar. It calls him Adam, because not everybody can be lucky. The attribute of Da'at comprises kindness and severity insofar as these attributes exist on an intellectual level. Moreover, as is explained at the end of chapter 3, the profound and involved meditation that characterizes the level of Da'at actually creates love and fear insofar as they exist independently on an emotional level. This faculty of Da'at then should, says the Rebbe, be nullified and absorbed into the attribute of the higher knowledge, Da'at Elyon, which comprises kindness and severity, in which is clothed in the passage of Shema in Vayam Shemoah. I shared with you there are 4 components, each one corresponding to different attributes, that together it's all inclusive of all the emotions and all the intellectual faculties. This accords with the statement of the Shulchan Aruch that while putting on the tefillin, one should intend to make one's heart and brain subservient to God. Code of Law says to us, when I put on tefillin, I have to say to myself, why am I doing, what's the kavana, what's the intention? To be obedient, to be subservient to God. When you think about the 4 components that are connecting to all faculties of the brains and the heart, now we can understand that's how it becomes subservient to God. In this way, then, the divine soul as a whole and its intellective and emotive faculties in particular are affected by one's wearing tefillin. And while putting on tzitzit, one should bear in mind what is written in Zohar, namely, that he should draw upon himself his blessed kingdom. When you put on the talis, you say, that's like God is covering me. I'm all encompassed by God, which is the kingdom over all worlds. Nevertheless, we should intend and endeavor to focus God's kingdom specifically over ourselves through this mitzvah. For the commandment of tzitzit is particularly effective in enhancing one's acceptance of the yoke of heaven. This is similar to the commandment, you should surely set a king over yourself. So when I put tzitzit over talit or tzitzit over my head, I say I'm putting king over me. I'm putting God over me is my king. The Rebbe notes, the verse implies that before one set a king over himself, he had no king, and it is he who now sets the king over himself. In other words, God is waiting for me to coronate him every morning. When I put talis, I say to God, I want you to be my king. I want you to rule over me. Until now, he wasn't. In such a case, that is, having contemplated this matter, then, even though after all this meditation, no dread or fear descends upon him in a manifest manner in his heart. In other words, for the rest of the day, he has no fear. God is over me. God is watching me. God is the boss. God is running the show. Nevertheless, since he accepts the kingdom of heaven upon himself and draws upon himself the fear of him in his conscience through thought and rational volition, and this submission to God and his fear of him is beyond doubt a sincere one, for it is the nature of all Jewish souls not to rebel against the blessed holy king. Then the Torah he studies, or the commandments he performs, becomes, because of his submission to the heavenly yoke, and because of the fear that he has drawn into his mind, are termed complete service of the kind that can result only from a fear of God, as the Alter Rebbe soon goes on to say, like all service performed by a servant for his master or king, which is, of course, prompted by fear and awe. Says the Rebbe, when we do that, then every mitzvah we do is perfect. Every time we study Torah, we do it in the right way, because we serve God for the right reason. The Rabbi is going to talk about the difference between relationship of father and son versus a king and servant. And we'll stop right here and continue next week.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Rabbi. Thank you.
Bye.